They pressed through the crowd to the edge of a large open circle. In front of them stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were excited. They pranced and paced, ringing the silver sleigh bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing Thomas, Percy, and Kyle had ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart, and Santa Claus himself appeared. The elves cheered wildly. Alec, Thomas, and Percy blew their whistles. Santa marched over to the children and, to Thomas's joy, pointed to Kyle.
"Let's have this fellow here."
Kyle beamed and looked over to Thomas. Thomas smiled happily at his friend and winked at him. Santa jumped into his sleigh. The conductor handed Kyle up. He sat on Santa's knee.
"Now, what would you like for Christmas?"
Kyle knew he could have any gift he could imagine. But the thing he wanted most for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What he wanted more than anything was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. He whispered it to Santa, and Santa smiled. Then he gave Kyle a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from a reindeer's harness. Thomas and Percy watched with Alec, curious as to what was going on. The elf tossed the bell up to Santa. He stood, holding the bell high above him.
"The first gift of Christmas!"
he called out. The clock struck midnight as the elves roared their approval. Thomas blew his whistle again. He was so happy for Kyle. Percy, on the other hand, was very confused. Kyle wanted a tiny little bell for Christmas? But why? I mean, it does make a lovely sound, but why would he want that for a special Christmas present? "Because," Alex said to him, "because, Percy, a silver sleigh bell is a wonderful symbol of the spirit of Christmas, as is Santa Claus himself." "Oh! Well then, if it's that special enough to be the first gift of Christmas, then Percy blew his whistle happily as well. "Hooray! Well done, Kyle!" Santa handed the bell to Kyle, and he put it in his bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped him down from the sleigh.
"Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen,"
Santa called before cracking his whip. His team charged forward and climbed into the air. Thomas and Percy's eyes were wide with surprise and wonder. "It's true! It's all true!" Percy cried happily. "Reindeer really do know how to fly!" "This is definitely a Christmas to remember," Thomas declared happily. Santa circled once above them and the children, then disappeared into the cold, dark polar sky. "I'm very glad you two came along, Thomas and Percy," Alex said warmly. "But now it is time to take the children home. That includes the two of you as well." "Aw, so soon?" Thomas moaned, disappointed. "Do we have to?" Percy asked. "Can't we just stay just a teensy bit longer?"
Need I remind you both that you still have a railway you need to help run on Sodor?
Alec chuckled.
Like you said yourselves, Sir Topham Hatt will be very worried if he discovers the two of you gone. And these children need to get home too. They still need to return to their families for Christmas.
Thomas and Percy looked at each other. They both knew Alec was right. But, Alec, it took us so long to get here. How are we ever going to follow you back to Sodor without getting tired again? Thomas asked.
Well, I do have an idea. I know that your coal bunkers are almost empty, and you are low on water as well. So here's what we can do.
Alec asked some of the elves to give Thomas and Percy the best coal and water they had. Soon Thomas and Percy's coal bunkers were filled to the top, and their boilers were full once more.
The North Pole's coal and water is very special,
Alec explained.
It gives me the energy and strength I need to travel the world without tiring out.
And it'll work for us? Even if we're not magical engines like you? Percy asked.
Of course it will, said Alec reassuringly. Trust me. And he gave them a wink.
Thomas and Percy weren't sure, but they trusted Alec. And so as they pulled out of the North Pole, ready to start their long journey home, the two tank engines suddenly felt quite different. Thomas, my wheels don't hurt at all now. I don't feel tired anymore. Neither do I. In fact, I feel so full of energy. Me too, Percy cried out. The magic from the North Pole's coal and water was working perfectly. The two engines chuffed alongside Alec as they sped along the magical tracks. They were going back the same direction they came, through the mountains, valleys, and peaks, back through the dark forests. But this time Percy wasn't scared. Finally, they came upon the site of lights of a town Thomas and Percy knew very well. We're back on Sodor! Thomas cried happily. Oh, home, sweet home! Percy also said happily.
See? Didn't the conductor and I tell you we'd be back before dawn?
And you were right, Alec, Thomas said happily. Thank you so much for all your help. Yes, Percy added. We would never have made it without you.
You're both very welcome, Alec said kindly. And you know, I owe you two some thanks as well.
Oh? Us?
Thomas wondered.
But we didn't do anything, Alec.
Sure you did. Not only were you a good influence for the children, especially Kyle, but you also gave me something I never thought I could have.
What's that? Thomas and Percy asked in unison.
Alex smiled warmly. New friends.
Thomas and Percy smiled. They were both very happy to have made friends with Alec as well.